Hello, my name is Samuel Gallear, and in this video podcast I'm going to evaluate theoretical concepts that underpin and inform coaches. And in addition, I will also discuss a range of techniques and approaches which enhance my coaching itself. Here are coaching styles. On the left, direct, right, indirect. The ones on the left, these are referred to as coach-led or driven, meaning the coach makes the key decisions for the session, such as the venue, consent, and structure of delivery. These are best used on novices or when tighter control is required. On the right hand side, these are more student-led sessions where the students themselves mould the nature of the session. Most important is each style has its right place. Another way of looking at this diagram as a coaching styles is on the left hand side is more of a autocratic leadership and coaching style where there's no question what you're going to be doing. It's already been planned and it's going to happen this way and that way. In the middle is more of a democratic where there's a bit of to and fro and in discussions between what's going to happen next and where the session goes. And on the right hand side is a laissez-faire approach by the coach where the coach just lets the students go and do their own learning, plan their own session. For example, this could be is you just turn up to a flat water venue and you go, right, what do you want to work on? Right, okay, Jimmy wants to work on his low brace turns and his bow rudders. So you go, great, okay, you go do that and we'll work on it from there. We can now move on to finding the right style for our groups and the conditions. If all your teaching is underpinned by a coach-led session, you're going to suppress any coaching opportunities that the learner may initiate and wish to explore. This is what you don't want to do. The style a coach may use is a matter of appropriateness and the coach's personal judgment. The coach's ability to make the right judgment makes it the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. Here we have two common scenarios which both use different coaching styles. First one on the left, you have a group of mature students, basic knowledge. The weather conditions are good and there's no wind on the lake and they have it to themselves. So, coaching styles you may use for this are more laid back, indirective coaching style where they lead it themselves. They know what they need to do or they know what they can do, but they just want a good day out on the lake or the river. What you might want to do there is identify things they could work on. So paddling in a straight line and keeping it for a long distance. You may want to introduce games instead, such as 50-meter sprints, stuff like that, or tag. The scenario on the right, you have mature students, and it's the first time on the moving water. So you want a more coach-driven or led session. The reason for this is there's a lot of variables and a lot of things that could potentially go wrong. With you keeping a tighter control of your group, you know where they are and what they're doing. You can allow the students to just go off and try it themselves, but you select the area that you work in. It may literally just be a small channel of water and there's two massive eddies on either side. If something was to happen, you know, and you can react to it straight away and get them to one side. So being a good coach is knowing your group. Here we have 4 different types of learning styles. First one, activist, theorist, reflector, and pragmatist. An activist is someone who likes to learn by doing, very similar to a kinesthetic learning style. Theorist likes to know or needs to know why that movement works best. That is also the angles, the blade, the body and the boat for it to work in their head. A reflector likes to reflect on everything that they've seen and they've heard, and they'll go through it in logical steps in their head before they go out and carry out that move. And then you have the pragmatist. People who just, as long as it works, it works. They don't care how it works, why it works, if it's the best. As long as it works, they'll use it. Being able to identify these type of people in your groups will benefit you massively when structuring your session. For example, if you have a group full of activists, sitting down and explaining it to them step by step, this is the body, this is the boat angle, this is where you want to be doing. They're not going to enjoy the session and they're actually going to learn it. What you need to do is send them out and go, right, go try turn to your left. Yeah, okay. And then slowly alter stuff while they're doing it, which will work a lot better for them and make your session run a lot smoother and more progressive. Start teaching or coaching. By this I mean knowing what stage your group is at. Where do you start coaching? You need to gain as much information as possible about your students, and this is one way of making sure your coaching is beneficial to all involved. But how do you gain this information? It can be done in numerous ways. Getting them to fill out self-assessment forms of what they think they can do and their skills that they think they have. Questioning about their expectations of the session and their motives to participate is also another. And structured observation, which can be in the form of games which you have set, such as Stuck in the Mud. By doing this, you can observe their skills in many different skills, such as paddling forward, paddling backwards, turning, and spatial awareness of the boat as well. And not only that, but their confidence in a boat as well. Really good way to structure your sessions is to use either the ideas model or the Apple model. Pretty much do the same job. Ideas model is a bit more popular. So the breakdown of the ideas model is I stands for introduction of the skill. The introduction of the skill is basically you just tell them what you're going to be doing. Then you go to demonstration, which is D. Demonstrate how you do the skill. And then you move on to the explanation of any details. This could be the blade angle, body position, boat position as well. And then you move on to activity by the learner, which is A. By this, it means you send them off and either get them to do it in a game or a certain activity that you planned out or drills. It's a really good way of them learning, especially for those activist or kinesthetic learners as well. When structuring your session, you want the activity to be the main bulk of the session because that's the main reason why people are there. They want to get out and they actually want to have some time in the water. If you're standing there on the side or on the bank just explaining something, you're going to kill your session pretty quick. And then S is for summary, for both the coaches and the learner. This is where you provide feedback for them and they also provide feedback for yourself. So something that they thought that didn't feel right, they identify that to you. And if it is or it isn't, you can make changes there and then. The way you solve this problem is you just go back to demonstrating how it's meant to be done. Then you explain it, how it's meant to be done and why it's done. And then they go try it again. Eventually you'll have a continuation of this demonstration, the explanation and the activity by that student until they progress further on with that skill. The length of the session. Keep it short and sweet, especially when working with younger people or beginners. You don't want to extend any longer than 15 minutes when focusing on one set skill. This is a long time for a beginner or a young person to be focusing on any set of skills. So try break the session up with informal breaks or games. Research indicates that games are very beneficial to the learning process, even though students may not be aware of the similarities between what they have just been taught and the movements and strokes that games demand of them. Coaches can gain and give information that cannot be displayed within physical action. Asking students questions about what they are just about to do or have just performed gives us an indication of the level and depth of understanding of the paddlers and what they have gained about those movements. One of the advantages in the use of questioning as a coach is that it can take time to get to the end goal. Be careful not to overplay the questioning, as it can be frustrating for students if the type of standard of question are not picked at the right level. Really good way of improving your coaching skills. Here are some simple things to remember. So make sure all students can see you. Make sure all the skills are within their ability so they can actually perform it. Perform it in silence. This is so they don't get distracted from you talking and they can focus on what you're actually doing. And help the learner in the demonstration. By this it means identify key points, what you're going to be doing. So it could be what angle your blade is at. Identify this before you start so they know what they're looking for when you're doing it. Be wary of showing any negative demonstrations. You don't want to be showing them the wrong thing because that's what they're going to do. Tell them when it starts and it finishes so they know when they need to start looking for what you've told them to look out for, and then when they can stop. Let other students demonstrate. 1, it's easy for you. You can observe everybody else. And 2, some people actually find it quite daunting and intimidating to be able to try and copy what coaches are doing, but find it easier to copy their friends or a peer, and then give them time and the opportunity to practice. This takes us back to the idea model, where we want to have a lot of activity time so they can practice what they've learnt. We need to know what practice works best and when. Two main types: block practice and random practice. Block practice is where you practice something over an extended amount of time consecutively. So, such as University of Central Lancashire, they do block weeks of practicals where they'll spend the whole week doing the same thing or in the same discipline. Random practice is where you send people off and you do one or two drills, you come back and you tell them to go do something different, but still working on the same skills. The pros and cons of this: research suggests that block practice may quickly improve the performance of students, but improvement may not be long term and turn into secure learning. However, it does seem to benefit novices who are trying a movement out for the first time, as it allows them to gain a stronger picture of something new to them. Random practice, otherwise known as varied practice, may well produce less immediate results, but research suggests that it actually produces more secure learning and allows for greater retention of the skill. Before we execute any stroke or technique, we must engage the brain to allow the body to perform the physical element of the task. The mental side of this can be practice. The coaching and the use of mental practice is a skill, and like all other skills, it takes time to get. Another thing to remember is make sure we practice on both sides. By this I mean, if you've got your students working on the right, before you move into another part of the move, get them to do it on the left as well. By doing this, you build up their confidence and competency in this specific skill, and it won't hinder any later on practice or training. Theoretical concepts of coaching. I can now use this to improve my own personal coaching skills. One way of doing this is always provide a challenge. The reason for this is in my previous sessions, I found that not enough challenge was provided and my students got quite bored really quickly. Also, they didn't see a point to it, so I need to also identify why we're doing these moves and skills, explain it a lot better. Another way is allow for more student-driven learning. What I mean by this is allow them to decide what they feel like they need to do. I chose turning on while moving and while static. Now, for my students that I had, they were quite mature students and had quite a fairly advanced knowledge of the skills. They just needed honing. So when I broke it down to the basics, it probably wasn't the best way of doing it. I found that I was just reiterating stuff that they already knew and they wasn't really paying attention because they already knew it and they found it quite boring. Another one would be to observe more and interact less. I found myself talking to them a lot and interrupting their practice a lot more than what I felt I should have. Instead, I should take a back seat, even maybe stand on the sidelines on the bank and observe what they're doing there. Watch them practice 2 or 3 times, and then if I see something that maybe needed changing, identify to them then so they can change it. Also, use questions to probe answers. I use very closed questions where it was just a yes or no response. Next time I want to be using maybe leading questions or reverse questions as well, getting them to answer if they ask me questions.